Hi, I'm Jira. About a year or two ago, I did a video where I talked about my first impressions on all of the Magic sets that got announced for 2026. I gave my little thoughts about each of them in an unscripted way and talked about what I hoped would happen and what I hoped wouldn't happen and so on. And I figured that would be fun to do for 2027 as well, where I talk about my thoughts on the upcoming Magic sets, give a little rambly thing about them, and talk about what I think, what I want from each of them or whatever. Again, there's going to be unscripted, so there's going to be a lot of rambling. There's going to be a lot of like fumfering about, I suppose. But I guess with that being said, let's start with the first set that was announced today. So I know this is probably not supposed to be pronounced Noctis, but that's what I'm going to pronounce it as because it's just easier for me. This is an underwater plane, which I know is something a lot of people have wanted for a long time. I know Mark's blog has a lot of like, can we get an underwater plane all over it. I'm excited for it. I think it's neat. I know it's very difficult because the main issue is that everything in a mono blue, like an underwater set, should be mono blue, right? Or at least blue to some extent. So they're gonna have to pull an Innistrad and find a way to make it so it makes sense without just being mono blue. Because on Innistrad, everything in theory should be black, right? Like werewolves, vampires, zombies, ghosts, spirits, whatever. They should be black, but they're not. They found another route to take them, focusing on another part of their traits and stuff in order to make them not all black. I think they're going to do the same thing here. I know it's very tricky to do, but I have faith in them. I think this is one of the reasons why cephalids became octopuses, and I think they're going to do a similar thing with lobster folk, like they did with the Viashinos and cephalids, where they got rid of that creature type and replaced it with fucking lizards and octopus and stuff. Which I'm cool with for the sake of, what's the word? Synergy, like, so that they can just make crab and lobster support cards work with them too, and to make it easier in general. I think it's cool to have like shark folk and lobster folk and merfolk here so that it's not all just sea monsters and fish and serpents and krakens and stuff while also having them there. I think it's going to add the variety a set like this needs because a lot of the issue with sets that are in a specific kind of location like this is variety because you don't want every card feeling the same or looking the same. So I think all of these different types of creatures are going to give it a visual difference between itself, if that makes sense. A lot of visual variety. I think it's cool that they're also including like humans as like underwater dwellers in like not I think they're scuba suits, right? I don't know if there's a difference between the scuba suit and what's on screen right now, but I think it's cool. I think it's interesting. There's a lot that they can do with it. It's kind of weird that I get why they're getting rid of flying for this and replacing it with a different evasive mechanic, but it's always a pet peeve of mine when a mechanic is introduced and it is so specifically tied to that plane flavor-wise and name-wise that they can't really bring it back in another set because it doesn't make sense. Like some of the Aether Drift mechanics can't really come back that easily because they're too tied to racing or whatever. And I just usually hate that as a pet peeve. But then again, I thought Exhaust was one of those mechanics, and it's apparently in Reality Shift. So, what do I know, I guess. I'm excited for the underwater plane. I think it's really cool. It's not my favorite because I'm not as into... People are going to kill me for this, but you should know this by now. I'm not as into the pure fantasy Magic stuff. I usually prefer more modern stuff than that, or more like when it goes into sci-fi or horror or something like that, as opposed to pure fantasy. But I know this is a set that people have wanted for ages. I'm happy that it's getting made for the people that wanted them, and I think there's going to be a lot of cool shit in here for me. Now for something that's much more my speed, much more something that Jira can enjoy. Not that I don't enjoy the water set, but you know, this one is more so tailor-made for my taste. Kamigawa Titan Breach. This is a set that is... Its pitch is the coolest thing I've ever heard in my fucking life. Ninjas and samurais piloting gigantic mechs to fight mutated monsters from Ikoria in a neon cyberpunk city. That is just inherently cool as hell to me and something that I would really fucking enjoy. I love the neon aesthetic. I love Kamigawa. I love Ikoria. I just think it's really interesting and I just think it's really cool. It's kind of a dumb fun idea, like the kind of thing you would make to excite a kid or whatever. It's just really cool. I think there's a lot of mechanical stuff they could do with this. I love the idea of like little evasive ninjas like dodging gigantic mutated monsters or whatever. I like the idea of like just giant mechs or whatever with maybe like bigger vehicles than we're used to, like huge like 1818 vehicles that have massive crew costs. There's a few like mechanic ideas that I can think of that'd be really cool. I think it'd be cool to combine an Ikoria and a Kamigawa thing by having like a mutate mechanic for pilots where like I'm thinking something like you like mutate a creature under a vehicle and it reduces the crew cost permanently and also gives them the keywords of everything underneath it. If that makes sense, I think that would just be really cool and really interesting, and I feel like there's a lot you could do with that to have like mutate versus like a vehicle mutate for pilots or whatever. There's some cool visual shit. I love the idea that like in order to show the scale of these giant mechs, the humans are like little fucking tiny specks in the art or whatever. They're hidden on rooftops. I just think it's really cool. I love the aesthetic. I love the feel. I love the idea of like ancient stuff like the Ikoria stuff, like more natural stuff clashing with the Neon City. I just think it's an interesting angle. I love both of these planes, and I think there's a lot of cool shit you could do with it. I think this is going to be a set that is, even if it's mid or bad, I think it's going to be so cool that I'm not going to care. I know it's probably going to be great. Like, I'm excited for it. I'll try not to be biased with my love to it, because I just know I'm going to fucking love this set. I know some people are scared that this is going to be more of a hat set, where it's going to be more like giant monster tropes, as opposed to being a Kamigawa and Ikoria set. I think it's going to be, personally, I think it's going to be more like Lost Caverns of Ixalan, where it's a backdrop set, where it is Kamigawa, it is Ikoria, they're mechanically there, they're mechanically represented, but also having like the giant monster Godzilla Pacific Rim type tropes or whatever there, if that makes sense. Like, it's still going to be Kamigawa, it's still going to be Ikoria. I think they've learned their lesson from Murders of Karlov Manor, and I think Lost Caverns of Ixalan was a pretty fucking good set. So I think it's going to be more like the latter than the former. I also like Outlaws of Thunder Junction, even though that's technically something different. People are probably going to be... I like Outlaws of Thunder Junction, okay? Anyway, I think that's all I really have to say about it. I guess on to the third set, and we're like 9 minutes in, so this might actually be the same length as the previous looking at every Magic set announced or whatever, but whatever. On to the third plane. The last set is one that I don't have as many thoughts about. It is, I'm going to try to pronounce this right, Zhalfir. I was going to say Zolfir, and I think I've said Zolfir for years, but the video said Zhalfir, so that's what I'm going with. I hope that's correct, and I don't look like an idiot right now because of that. Zhalfir is an Afro fantasy set on Zhalfir, obviously, which is, I'm not a lore gal, so I'm trying to get this right. Mirrodin was taken over by Phyrexia, and then after the Phyrexian War, Teferi turned Mirrodin into Zhalfir. I think that's it. Again, I'm not a lore person. I don't really pay attention to the lore too much, but that's my grasp on it. I've also only been playing since 2021, so I'm not a huge knowledge base about this stuff. I think it's really cool. I love that seems to be more pure fantasy. Like, it's not pure fantasy, obviously. There's some other elements mixed in. But I do like another fantasy take because I feel like we've gotten a lot more modern feeling sets recently, and this is a nice break from that, and I know a lot of people prefer this kind of magic. It's really cool, all the research that they did, all the consultants that they had to make sure that this is as cool as possible and as accurate as possible to the vibes and themes that they're going for. I see so many people excited about this set, and it's always nice to see people really excited about a Magic set because I'm so used to all the negativity lately, but I guess I'll get to that later. I just think it's a really cool set. I love the aesthetic. I love the vibes it's going for. I love all the art that they've shown off. Like I love the mix of dark with bright colors or whatever as I'm showing in art right now. I hope if I remember to edit it in. Again, this is unscripted and kind of off the cuff. Uh, I just think it's a cool set. There's not tons I can say about it, other than I think it's really cool. I love all the effort that they're clearly putting into this set. Something else that's nice and really cool that I always appreciate is when there's a location that's in flavor text, or a book, or a side set, or a character's homeworld that we just haven't seen before, and it getting an actual full set to shine and show off the homeworld and add more flavor and lore to that character, seeing where they come from, where like their relationships with the people on that plane are. I just think that's really cool. I love it anytime they do that kind of thing, and that's another bonus that I think is really interesting. I just love the effort they put in, the flavor and lore that this is probably going to add to Teferi, and I think it's just a beautiful looking set with gorgeous art. I just don't have tons to say about it besides this, at least not until we get closer to the set's release date. But I'm excited for it, and I'm excited to see where it goes and what they do with this concept. So those are my thoughts on each of the three main sets that are releasing next year for in-universe Magic. Um, Overall thoughts is I'm pretty excited for it. I think the underwater world's really cool. I love Kamigawa Titan Breach, and I'm excited to see what they do with Zhalfir. It's nice that they're going back to magic feeling magic for people that prefer that. I know some people like me like really like Duskmourn, really like Aether Drift, really like Outlaws of Thunder Junction and Edge of Eternities and stuff, but there is a large group of people that vastly prefer old feeling fantasy magic sets, and it's nice that we're getting at least two of those this year, while also catering to people like me who prefer different kinds of things and giving us a new Kamigawa set to go back to. Uh, Something to note that I think is funny is that when this was announced to be Kamigawa, or before this was announced to be Kamigawa, and people were guessing that it was Kamigawa, my first thought was Kamigawa Neon Dynasty was like 2 years ago. We can't possibly return that fast. By the time this set comes out, Kamigawa Neon Dynasty will be 5 years old. That made me like DK. I know that for some people that's still really like new Magic, but like I started in 2021, so I've been playing this game for like at least 6 or 7 years at this point, which is crazy to have played this for that long. Um, but those are my main thoughts. I guess really quick, I can talk about Universes Beyond. There's 3 Universes Beyond sets this year. There's no real way to guess what they could be. Last time we had some hints, like we knew one was Nickelodeon and one was Marvel. I think the only thing we know this time is that one of them is Marvel. So I'm guessing the Marvel one, it could be mutants, it could be cosmic stuff, it could be magic stuff. I think they're going to do X-Men before they do cosmic stuff or magic stuff, because X-Men are pretty big right now, I think. X-Men are apparently going to be like a major part of the upcoming MCU, so there could be a tie-in there. I just think it's going to be X-Men and X-Men related characters or whatever, because we didn't get most X-Men. I think we only got a few in the Marvel set, but so I think that's going to be X-Men. The other two are difficult. I know people are expecting a Zelda one. I think Zelda's possible, but the issue is like Universe Beyond sets take a long time, so it would have to be something that started years ago. I'm not sure if Zelda. I know Zelda probably. Zelda's a huge franchise, obviously. I'm not sure if it has enough cards to fill like an entire set. I know I said I wanted it in my Universes Beyond wishlist video, but like it's a matter of if there's enough to fit. I feel like if they did it, it would be a Spider-Man situation where there would be like 30 Links and like 15 Zeldas and like 12 Ganondorfs or whatever. You know what I mean? Which I'm cool with, but I know a lot of people would not be cool with. But either way, I think Zelda could be it. It's a low chance, but I mean, I guess it's theoretically possible. I know people, like, I've seen some people say DC. I don't think they would do DC and Marvel in the same year, because they wouldn't want so for this year, right? They did Marvel, which is a modern day setting. They're doing Hobbit, which is a like a fantasy setting. And they're doing Star Trek, which is like a sci-fi futuristic thing. I think they want to go for different vibes between each of the things. So, but like, and even, like, so my thought would be Marvel as a modern setting, We would have Zelda if it is one as a fantasy setting. So I'd feel the third one would be more sci-fi or more like not fantasy or modern. You know what I mean? I don't think they would do Star Wars. I don't know. There's a lot of things that it could be, but I'm guessing it's going to be X-Men Mutants, and I'm guessing that God, that Zelda might be one of them, though I'm not like sure on that one. But it's hard because again, you can't really get like there's nothing to go off of where you're just throwing shit out, and you might be right. I don't know. It's also nice just seeing positivity in the community again. I'm so used to like a Star Trek card getting revealed and everyone going, "This is worthless slop. If you like this, you're not a real Magic fan. Universes Beyond fans aren't real." That kind of thing. I'm just used to that at this point, so it's weird actually seeing 99% positivity for once. At worst, it's some people doomering about certain aspects, but even then, it's still mostly positive. Um, I know the second the Universes Beyond sets get revealed, that's going to go right back to being, if you like this set, you're the worst scum of the earth or whatever, but it's still nice seeing positivity. I think Magic's been hitting it out of the park lately. Like, the main sets we've been getting have been, like, the in-universe sets we've been getting have been, like, top-tier stuff. And I've seen people say that we haven't got a good Magic set in, like, 7 years, and I think that's absurd. But whatever. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Magic the Gathering in 2027. I don't really have much else to say. I'm excited for next year. Uh, this year was pretty fucking good for me. I really like Secrets of Strixhaven. I like the TMNT set. I don't want to say I really like it. I like Lorwyn Eclipse. It's just that I don't have a connection to Lorwyn, so it doesn't hit as hard for me as it did for some other people. But those are my thoughts, and I guess we'll end the video here. So I guess I'll see you guys in the next video.